You're listening to the Bots and Bosses podcast, the only show where robots and humans attempt to work side by side. Presented by John Binks, technologist, author, and your AI ringling tour guide. So, buckle up and let's deep dive.
Every day you're interacting with AI and search engines, probably more than you even realize.
Oh, definitely.
They're, woven into our work, our entertainment, and importantly, how we learn, how we find information.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever stopped to ask, are these super powerful tools really making us smarter, helping us learn deeper?
Or is there maybe a hidden cost?
Yeah.
A trade-off?
Exactly. Is there a cognitive trade-off we're just not seeing?
Right.
So today we're diving into this really fascinating new study. It looks right at that question.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Investigating the neural impacts, the cognitive impacts of using AI and search tools for, a core learning task,
Right.
writing an essay.
And it gives this eye-opening look at how our brains literally respond.
Yeah, literally respond to these digital aids.
What makes this research, I think, so unique and really compelling is its approach. It's incredibly holistic.
How so?
Well, they didn't just look at the final essays, They combined brain activity measurements using EEG, electroencephalography, with sophisticated linguistic analysis, NLP, natural language processing, to analyze the writing itself.
Wow.
And on top of that, they did these really in-depth interviews with everyone who took part.
So multiple angles.
Exactly. This multifaceted view gives us this rare, really comprehensive look at how different tools affect not just what you create, but how your brain is actually functioning while you do it.
Okay, let's pull back the curtain on this then. Our mission today, extract the key nuggets, the important bits of knowledge from this study.
Yeah, find out what really matters.
And reveal some honestly surprising facts about how our brains react to these tools we rely on more and more.
Absolutely.
So, okay, bold claims about brain activity. You might be sitting there thinking, how on earth did they measure something like that? Let's unpack the experiment itself.
Right, it's set up.
They gathered 54 adults, ages 18 to 39. Pretty diverse academic backgrounds, too, from places like MIT, Wellesley, Harvard, Tufts, Northeastern.
Good universities, yeah. And a mix of genders, too.
Yeah, quite varied. So these participants were split into 3 distinct groups.
Okay.
First, the LLM group. They only used OpenAI's GPT-4o. That was their single resource for writing. No other apps, no internet browsing.
Just the AI.
Just the AI. Then, the search engine group. They could use any website, mostly Google it seems, but with a clever twist.
What was that?
They had to add AI to their search queries.
To filter out AI answers. Smart.
Yeah, to make sure they weren't accidentally getting AI-generated stuff.
Yeah.
And finally, the brain-only group. Totally unplugged.
Old school.
Completely. No LLMs, no online resources at all, just their own minds.
What do they have to do?
Their main task, writing essays on these quite thought-provoking abstract prompts. Things like loyalty, happiness, choices, courage.
Big topics.
Big topics. And this wasn't a quick thing. The whole study ran over 4 months, with each person coming in for multiple sessions.
Okay, so repeated measures. That adds strength.
Definitely. And when it came to actually measuring the results, they really went all out.
Yeah, the EEG, the NLP.
Right. They used an EEG device, this headset, the Neuroelectrics Inobio 32 recording brain activity in real time.
Getting insights into cognitive engagement, mental load, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Then, once the essays were done, they used natural language processing, NLP, to really analyze the language.
Digging into the text itself.
Yeah, looking at things like named entity recognition, spotting specific people, places, dates mentioned, also enneagrams, common sequences of words, and topic ontology, which sort of maps how concepts were organized in the essays.
So structure and content.
Right. And on top of all that, they did those post-assessment interviews.
The qualitative side, asking people how they felt.
Exactly. Asking about their experience, how satisfied they were, and this is critical, how much they felt they actually owned the essay they just wrote.
That's a key question.
And just to cover all bases, the essays were scored too, by human teachers and a specially built AI judge.
Wow. Okay. Incredibly thorough setup. But what did all those fancy measurements actually, show? How were the brains working differently?
Yeah, what's the juice?
Well, this is what's truly fascinating. The EEG results, they showed these really clear patterns in brain connectivity, almost like a neural symphony adjusting its volume based on the tools.
Okay.
The big headline finding was that the brain's overall connectivity systematically scaled down as the amount of external digital help went up.
Scaled down. So less help, more brain connection.
Exactly. Think of your brain like a busy network of highways, right?
Okay.
The brain-only group, working totally analog, they showed the strongest, widest-ranging networks, lots of active traffic, you could say.
Makes sense.
The search engine group, they showed intermediate engagement, like traffic was flowing, but maybe not quite as intensely.
Right.
And the LLM group, using the AI, they showed the weakest overall brain coupling. It's as if certain parts of that highway network were just less used.
Yeah.
Offloaded.
That's a really powerful image. So, okay, brain only is the superhighway. Let's compare that directly to the LLM group. What were the specific brainwave bands doing differently?
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. It was quite pronounced. So in the alpha band, that's often linked to internally driven stuff like deep focus, pulling up memories, generating ideas from within.
Creative thinking, maybe?
Sort of, yeah. Semantic processing. The brain-only group shows significantly stronger networks there. Their brains were really engaged in that deeper self-generated processing.
Okay.
Now, the LLM group, lower alpha connectivity. It's almost like their brains were subtly saying, okay, AI, you can handle some of this creative heavy lifting.
Offloading the ideation.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Then you look at the theta band. Theta is crucial for working memory, executive control, basically. Your brain juggling information and directing effort.
Your mental scratch pad.
Kind of, yeah. Again, the brain-only group really stood out. Significantly stronger frontal to posterior theta connectivity. That's a classic sign of intense mental effort, concentration. They were actively coordinating complex thoughts. Working hard, definitely. The LLM group, though, uniformly lower theta activity, which, well, it makes sense, right? The AI was providing a lot of the structure, the scaffolding.
Reducing the burden.
Reducing the working memory burden. And even in the delta band, which is tied to bigger picture integration encoding context, the brain-only group showed more activity there too, suggesting deeper internal processing. LLM group showed less.
So it sounds almost like the brain-only group's thoughts were flowing, like bottom up, generating ideas internally.
That's a great way to put it.
While the LLM group was more top-down, sort of managing the AI's input.
Precisely. The EEG data supports that. Brain-only showed more bottom-up flows, semantic sensory regions feeding ideas up to the frontal executive system, self-driven idea generation.
Right.
But the LLM group, more top-down, directed connectivity. The frontal cortex was mainly busy integrating, filtering the external input from the AI tool.
Okay, that distinction is clear. What about comparing brain only to the search engine group? Similar patterns? Similar, but distinct. The brain only group still showed stronger overall connectivity than the search engine users, especially in those lower frequency bands, delta and theta. Again, linked to internal stuff like memory and integrating concepts.
Okay.
The search engine group's lower alpha and weaker theta suggested, well, less reliance on internal memory, less intense internal coordination. This really fits with the Google effect, doesn't it?
Totally. Remembering where to find info, not the info itself.
Exactly. Their brains seemed more focused on processing the information coming off the screen, which actually engages faster brain oscillations.
Interesting. And finally, LLM versus search engine. How did they stack up neurocognitively?
So their overall alpha strength was kind of comparable. But how their networks connected, the topology, was different. The search engine group showed patterns consistent with handling a higher load of external information, engaging memory retrieval, integrating visual info with executive functions, basically, managing the search results.
Makes sense. Finding and sorting. Right. The LLM group, interestingly, showed greater coherence within their internal executive networks. Meaning their brain's command center was working more cohesively, maybe, and the two halves of the brain were communicating better, bilaterally. This suggests cognitive resources were freed up.
Freed up for what, though?
Maybe freed up to focus more on planning or evaluating the AI's output rather than actually generating the core content from scratch, or efficient processing, perhaps.
Okay, wow. The brain data alone is pretty compelling. Reduced effort with AI seems clear, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. Did this difference in brain activity actually translate into, tangible differences in the essays themselves or how people felt about what they wrote? What did those interviews reveal?
Yes. The subjective experience and the output. The differences there were quite stark, actually, especially around essay ownership.
Ownership, feeling like it was yours.
Exactly. The LLM group consistently reported very low ownership. They often felt like the AI did most of the heavy lifting.
I can imagine that.
The search engine group, they felt strong ownership. but still noticeably less than the brain-only group.
And the brain-only folks.
They almost all claimed full ownership. Like in the first session, 16 out of 18 participants said, yep, this is 100% mine.
Wow.
And that trend held pretty steady across the sessions. The LLM group did show a tiny increase in partial ownership later, maybe as they got used to integrating it, but still way lower.
That makes total intuitive sense. If an AI writes most of it, it doesn't feel like yours. Okay, but what about just remembering it? Could they recall what they'd written?
That was another big differentiator, memory recall. The LLM group significantly struggled.
Really?
Yeah. They often couldn't quote directly, accurately from essays they had written literally minutes before. It showed impaired retrieval.
Huh. It's like the information didn't fully embed.
Something like that. It's like they had the experience, maybe processed it superficially, but their brain didn't quite encode or own the specific details in the same way.
We've all felt that slightly vague feeling after quickly Googling something, right?
Exactly. This seems like a more pronounced version of that phenomenon, whereas the search engine and brain-only groups both showed comparable and much better quoting abilities. They remembered the specifics.
Okay, so ownership down, memory recall down for the LLM group. What about the essays themselves, the linguistic fingerprints? Did the NLP analysis find actual differences in style or content?
Oh, yeah. The NLP analysis, looking at homogeneity and divergence, was very revealing.
Homogeneity, like how similar the essays were.
Right. The LLM group's essays showed consistent homogeneity. In their named entity recognition, the specific names, places, dates they used, their enneagrams, those common word sequences, and in their topic ontology, how they structured ideas.
Yeah.
Basically, within that group, their essays were statistically quite similar to each other.
Like the AI has a certain style.
Possibly reflecting the model's training data or common patterns. The brain-only group, though, strong variability, much higher divergence on some topics, like the choices prompt. Their essays were much more unique, more distinguishable from one another.
Interesting. Any specific examples?
Yeah, named entities, for instance.
Yeah.
The LLM group used the most specific ones: persons, names, places, years, definitions. The search engine group used about half as many. And the brain-only group, a striking 60% less specific NERs than the LLM group.
So more abstract, maybe, less reliant on external facts.
Potentially reflecting more internal conceptual thinking rather than pulling in specific external details. And Enneagram showed differences too.
Like common phrases.
Yeah. Perfect society was used by all groups, but most often by the search engine group, least by brain-only. The brain-only essays had unique phrases reflecting more internal debate, like multiple choice, increased choice, power uncertainty. The search engine group used things like homeless person and moral oblige. The study actually noted this might be influenced by search trends. Apparently, homeless saw a massive 900% jump in searches compared to giving.
Wow. Search trends bleeding into essay content.
Seems plausible.
Yeah.
And the LLM group, they had a noticeable bias towards using third-person forms, which is pretty characteristic of a lot of AI-generated text.
Okay, fascinating differences. What about just basic structure and, well, were people happy with their work? Satisfaction.
Structure was generally good across the board. High adherence. Interestingly, the LLM group often mentioned starting with an AI-generated structure, but then adding their own personal ideas within that structure.
So using it as a scaffold.
Exactly. The brain-only folks reflected on improving their structure over time just through practice and satisfaction, generally high for everyone. The search engine group actually reported consistent full satisfaction.
So people were generally happy with the end product, even if for the LLM group they didn't fully feel like they owned it or couldn't recall it perfectly.
Seems that way. Efficiency and a decent output led to satisfaction, even with those other trade-offs.
Which brings us to the bigger picture, right? What are the true costs and benefits here, this digital convenience?
Exactly. If we connect these findings to broader ideas like cognitive load theory, the implications become pretty clear.
Okay, cognitive load theory. Remind us.
Basically, it's about the total amount of mental effort being used in your working memory. LLMs demonstrably reduce that load across all types, especially what's called germane cognitive load.
Germane load.
That's the good kind of load, the effort that actually goes into deep learning, into building those robust knowledge structures or schemas in your mind.
The effort that makes learning stick.
Precisely. LLMs streamline information, they help synthesize, they can make users like 60% more productive in terms of just getting stuff done.
Which sounds great.
It can be, but that efficiency often comes at a price. Less deep engagement with the material itself. By offloading so much of the mental work, LLMs seem to compromise that essential germane load.
So you're not doing the deep processing yourself.
Right. It shifts your role from active critical reasoning and idea generation to more passive oversight. You're verifying, maybe tweaking the AI's response rather than constructing it from the ground up.
And does that affect different learners differently?
It seems so. The study suggests higher competence learners might use LLMs more strategically as a tool to augment what they already know. But lower competence learners might lean towards more passive reliance, which could actually hinder them building those fundamental knowledge schemas.
A potential learning gap widener, maybe?
It's a concern.
So, okay, efficiency up, maybe deep learning down. What about just engagement? Can AI at least keep us more, plugged into the learning process?
It's nuanced. LLMs can boost immediate short-term engagement. You think about personalized learning, gamified elements, real-time feedback, like Duolingo, for instance.
Sure, it makes it feel interactive.
Yeah, and some studies show multi-role LLM setups can boost engagement. But the question is about the sustainability of deep cognitive engagement.
Right. Does it last? Does it lead to better thinking?
Often the evidence suggests maybe not consistently. Over-reliance can lead to less sophisticated reasoning, weaker arguments compared to traditional methods. Some researchers call it metacognitive laziness.
Metacognitive laziness, like your brain just doesn't bother thinking hard because it doesn't have to.
Essentially, yeah, it's not being pushed to do the heavy lifting.
And then there's the whole issue of what information are you even getting?
Critically important, LLM-powered conversational search. It can actually exacerbate selective exposure, reinforce your existing views. Because LLMs are fundamentally next token predictors. They're designed to give you what's probable, what aligns with the prompt, what they predict you want, consonant information.
Unlike Google, which might give you 10 different blue links, some contradictory.
Exactly. Traditional search often presents diverse viewpoints, forcing you to evaluate. LLMs tend to give a synthesized, singular response, which might discourage you from thinking laterally, seeking out other perspectives, making independent judgments.
So a shift from active seeking to passive receiving.
Yes. And that has potentially profound implications for how we, and especially future generations, evaluate information. It could erode critical thinking skills, lead to overconfidence based on, frankly, incomplete or biased information.
And the study mentioned biases too, right?
Absolutely. Biases can creep in from the LLM's training data, from search engine algorithms, maybe prioritizing advertisers, and of course, our own human biases reflected back at us.
Okay, so a lot of potential downsides swirling around this convenience. What does this all mean for how we should actually approach learning? Use these tools?
Well, this leads us to maybe the most fascinating part of this study, Session 4.
Session 4, what happened then?
They did a what if. They had participants switch the tools they were using.
So LLM users went brain only and vice versa.
Exactly. And the results were really revealing.
Okay, lay it on us. What happened when the LLM users had to rely only on their brains?
They showed weaker neural connectivity and under-engagement of those key alpha and beta networks we talked about earlier.
Compared to the original brain-only group?
Yes. Now, interestingly, they did show some improvement compared to their own performance back in Session 1, before they used the LLM much. But they still didn't reach the levels of neural integration, that deep processing, seen in the people who were brain-only from the start, or in Sessions 2 and 3.
So using the LLM previously seemed to have limited their brain's network development for that task.
It strongly suggests that. Prior LLM use might have limited the development or strengthening of certain deep cognitive networks needed for self-driven thinking. It's like if you always use a calculator, you might not get as good at mental math. Your brain doesn't build those specific muscles as strongly if it's not exercised.
That is genuinely counterintuitive for many of us who just reach straight for the AI helper. So if I'm hearing you right, starting brain only first actually primes your brain better.
It appears that way. But what about the flip side? What happened when the original brain-only people then got to use an LLM in Session 4?
Yeah, what about them?
This is where it gets even more interesting. Those participants demonstrated higher memory recall, and they showed a re-engagement of widespread brain regions, occipitoparietal, prefrontal nodes, similar in some ways to what the search engine group showed.
Okay, so their brains kicked into a different gear.
And how? They showed a significant increase in brain connectivity across all EEG frequency bands.
An increase?
Yeah.
After using the LLM?
Yes. It suggests that introducing AI after that initial period of intense self-driven cognitive effort actually invoked higher levels of cognitive integration.
Wow. Okay, unpack that. Why?
It points towards a potential optimal sequence. Maybe the best approach isn't just if you use AI, but when. Strategically timing AI tools after you've done the initial hard thinking yourself might actually enhance engagement and neural integration.
So grapple with it yourself first, then bring in the AI to refine or expand.
That seems to be what the neural data suggests. Your brain adapts to how it's trained, right?
Okay.
If the AI consistently does the high-level planning and structuring, your brain just allocates fewer resources to developing those functions itself.
Train your brain first, then use the tool strategically. That's a powerful takeaway.
It really is.
And just as a quick side note, they mention energy costs too.
Yeah, a brief but startling point.
Yeah.
An LLM query uses roughly 10 times the energy of a standard search query.
10 times.
So there's an environmental, a material cost layered on top of the cognitive one.
Oh,
Something else to consider.
definitely.
So if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, education, lifelong learning,
Yeah.
these findings really suggest that while AI tools offer undeniable benefits, efficiency, personalization, access as man, they demand really careful thought about their long-term impact on how we develop cognitively.
Not neutral.
Not at all. They could reduce the friction, make things easier.
Yeah.
But that convenience, as we've seen, comes with these cognitive trade-offs that we're really only just starting to understand fully.
So this deep dive, it's really unpacked this nuanced reality, hasn't it? AI search tools.
Yeah.
They're powerful, absolutely.
No question.
But the convenience seems to clearly come with these cognitive trade-offs in deep learning, in memory, in critical thinking. And this study gives actual neural evidence for those shifts. It's not just theory,
Concrete evidence.
Yeah.
It shows how our brains adapt.
which leaves us and you listening with a pretty important question, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it raises this thought. In a world where getting an instant answer is increasingly the norm, how do you make sure your brain is still actively building its own robust knowledge networks?
Right. How do you ensure you're not just, offloading the essential cognitive effort? How do you keep your own mental muscles strong?
Something definitely worth reflecting on. We encourage you to think about your own use of these digital tools in your learning and your work.
Absolutely. Food for thought.
Well, that's a wrap of this episode of the Bots and Bosses podcast. Enjoyed the show? Don't just listen. Follow the Bots and Bosses podcast and connect with John Binks online. Remember, the bots are getting smarter, but you're still the boss. For now, see you next time.